Picture this. It's 1968 and 9 men set out to do something that had literally never been done in the entire span of human history. The challenge? To sail single-handed, non-stop, entirely around the globe. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into the incredible true story of Robin Knox Johnston, which he documented in his legendary book, A World of My Own. This was the ultimate dare to achieve the impossible, taking on some of the absolute most dangerous conditions on the planet.
312. I want you to just let that number sink in for a second, right? That is the sheer, terrifying scale of isolation we're talking about here. 312 days with absolutely zero human contact. No fresh food, no GPS to tell him where he was, and, maybe most importantly, no rescue helicopters waiting on standby if things went sideways. For almost a whole year, his entire universe shrank down to just himself, a tiny wooden boat, and the relentless, unforgiving ocean.
So, I've got to ask you, and I want you to seriously think about it for a moment. Could you survive 312 days completely alone? Imagine being plunged into the most violent oceans on the planet, stripped of every single modern convenience, every safety net you've ever known, and hearing literally no voice other than your own for months on end. For those of us used to being constantly connected 24/7, the atmospheric tension of a voyage like this is, well, it's pretty much unimaginable.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the ultimate underdog.
Okay, so the year is 1968. Up above, the space race is totally dominating global headlines. But back down on Earth, the Sunday Times announces this wild event, the Golden Globe Race. The rules were brutally simple, honestly. Start in England, sail solo around the world via the deadly Southern Ocean, don't stop, and whatever you do, don't accept any outside help. Now, the contrast between the competitors here was just stark. On one side, you had these well-funded sailors backed by corporate sponsors cruising in custom-built, modern, high-tech racing yachts. And on the other side, you had a 29-year-old merchant Navy officer named Robin Knox Johnston. He was sailing a 32-foot traditional wooden ketch built in India named Suhaili. To the press covering the event, his boat looked too small, way too old, and just painfully slow. They gave Robin absolutely zero chance of surviving, let alone actually winning the whole shebang.
And his expedition, it was shockingly low-tech. Before he sailed out of Falmouth, England on June 14, 1968, his packing list basically consisted of a ton of canned food, an absolute mountain of cigarettes, and a few good books. Seriously, that's it. He was heading out into the absolute unknown armed with little more than the bare necessities. He really had no idea what was waiting for him out there in that deep water.
Which brings us to part 2, completely cut off.
Just 2 months into the voyage, the unimaginable actually happens. Robin's main radio abruptly breaks, just dead static. Now, in today's world, a broken radio means you grab your satellite phone and you call your support team, right? But in 1968, this wasn't just a mechanical failure. This was a sudden, chilling severance from all of humanity. He literally could not send messages. So the world just assumed he was dead. For the next 7 months, his only company will be the stars, the sea, and his own echoing thoughts.
And man, as if the mechanical failure wasn't enough, his own body started to betray him. Deep out in the ocean, he gets hit with these agonizing stomach pains. Alone in his dark, cramped, violently rocking cabin, he actually diagnoses himself with appendicitis. He knows, for a fact, that if his appendix bursts out there, thousands of miles from the nearest hospital, it's a guaranteed death sentence. For days, he just lies in his bunk, sweating through the pain, literally mentally preparing for the end. But miraculously, the pain starts to subside. Turns out, it wasn't his appendix at all. It was a severe stomach bug, most likely caused by his drinking water supply becoming polluted with heavy rust. He survived it, yeah, but the real test was just looming right there on the horizon.
Moving on to part 3, surviving the Roaring Forties.
So, to sail around the world, you have to cross the Southern Ocean, specifically this infamous area known as the Roaring Forties. And let me tell you, this region is incredibly hostile. Why? Because below Africa, there is absolutely no landmass to stop the wind. None. So these storms just continuously circle the globe, constantly picking up speed and creating a chaotic, churning nightmare of water.
And that kind of environment, it produces waves of just sheer monstrosity. 80 feet. Imagine a rogue wave the size of an 8-story apartment building, just crashing over the deck of a tiny 32-foot wooden boat. At one point, a wave exactly that massive hits Suhaili and completely knocks the boat entirely on her side. Just boom!
The crucial takeaway here is that Robin isn't even fighting the other racers anymore. He's literally fighting the ocean itself just to stay alive. Suhaili is being battered mercilessly. As he details in his book, A World of My Own, the psychological endurance required in this moment is just staggering. His sails tear, his self-steering gear breaks entirely, and this forces Robin to steer his boat manually, out in the open air in utterly freezing temperatures.
Now, while Robin was out there fighting for his life, the race was taking a truly devastating toll on everyone else. To put this into perspective, out of the original 9 starters, only 1 finished. The other 8, they dropped out, their boats sank to the bottom, or they vanished entirely. The profound isolation and the sheer danger simply broke almost everyone else who attempted this impossible feat.
And, the extreme psychological pressure of this isolation is really best understood when you contrast it with the tragic story of one competitor in particular, Donald Crowhurst. While Robin somehow managed to find this deep well of resilience, Crowhurst completely broke under the weight of the profound isolation. He actually began faking his coordinates to make it appear like he was making progress, before ultimately just stepping off his boat into the sea, never to be seen again. It's a really sobering reminder of just how incredibly fragile the human mind can be when it's completely severed from the rest of the world.
Finally, let's look at Part 4, the triumphant return.
This impossible journey really came down to a few critical milestones. After departing back in June 1968, he faced the ultimate mariner's graveyard on January 17, 1969, Cape Horn at the tip of South America. It is widely considered the absolute most treacherous stretch of water on Earth. But his little wooden boat, the one everyone doubted from day one, pushed through. And finally, on April 22, 1969, exactly 312 days after he left, he returned to Falmouth.
The historical significance of this moment, it really cannot be overstated. When a rusty, weathered, totally salt-stained, but completely unbroken Suhaili sailed back into the harbor, a whole flotilla of small boats surrounded him. Remember, the world had assumed he was lost at sea for months. Instead, out of those 9 starters, Robin Knox Johnston became the only one to finish, earning his title as the very first human being to ever sail single-handedly and non-stop around the world.
Robin proved that, hey, you don't always need the biggest team or corporate sponsors or the most high-tech gear. He showed us the ultimate triumph of human willpower. In his own words, he wrote, "Sometimes you just need a good boat, an iron will, and a world of your own." It really is a testament to the absolute limits of human resilience. So, let's wrap this up with a thought. When you strip away all the noise of the modern world, the smartphones, the safety nets, the constant communication, when you are left entirely to your own devices, how strong is your iron will? Robin Knox Johnston found his answer out in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Kind of makes you wonder what you might be capable of if you ever had to find yours, doesn't it?